all these companies, and then they're open. They have an open mind and an open heart. So they're able to see the best practices that need to come in and leave their ego at the door. Because ego is a form of insanity, if you think about it.
Listen, I'm a sales professional at heart, and I say sales professional. I'm not a salesman. I'm a sales professional at heart. But I've been lucky enough to have been mentored and learn the education of running a business, getting under the hood, identifying efficiencies where you're making. And believe me, I've done them too, where you've had certain parts of your business that's not making as much money as you want. I say put pressure all the time, put pressure in areas that are going really well, put pressure in areas that are not going really well because you want to fail fast.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.
Welcome back to Unfinished Business, everybody. Great having you here. And today we have a true powerhouse on this show. This guy knows business strategy, business growth, corporate growth. We're going to talk everything business today and really dig in to what constitutes a great business. We're going to talk about mergers and acquisitions. We're going to talk about developing efficiencies. We're going to talk about leading organizations. We're going to talk everything top to bottom on what it takes to run a successful organization. We're going to talk about identifying efficiencies, financial growth, financial health, EBITDA. If you don't know that word, we're going to explain that word as well. And we're really going to dive in to our guest story of his business journey and how he's impacting businesses today and helping them grow and really being a real resource for organizations across this country. So without further ado, I want to introduce the CEO of Palladium, LLC, Peter Cimoroni. Peter, welcome to the show.
What's going on, David? How you feeling?
I'm doing great. Great, man. It's great to have you here. And we've got some roots together. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. You're an Ohio guy out of Solon area. And I know we have some paths as far as universities and schools and all that kind of stuff. But at any rate, outside of that, it's great having you on.
Yeah, you got to be a tough person to live in Northeast Ohio today, man. So it's beautiful. It's balmy.
Yeah, right. I was about to say you guys are getting some snow out there at this time of year, right?
We're used to that, but it's just freezing, man. It's cold, baby.
It's cold, man. It's cold, man. Listen, you've built an incredible career helping companies go from good to great, I would say. What initially really started this path for you? Give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Yeah. So, one of the big things that really juiced me when I was a kid, my 20s was, top line growth, right? Making a sale. So at the end of the day, if you don't have a business, if you don't have sales, you can have the greatest idea in the world. You can have the greatest operations on the planet. You can have the finest CPA, CFO, whatever. Yeah, sales. You should have luck. So the top line growth was, how you start a business, basically, how you grow a business. But then I dug in and made a lot of mistakes, and realized that you could spend $1.05, and at the end of the day, you're only making 2 cents. You just don't have a business, So, and I met a friend who was killing it, but he ended up $71 million in debt. Because he was spending $1.10 and making $1.05,
Yeah.
So I really looked at all those line items and I said that's how EBITDA occurs and that's how your valuation grows and that's your revenue event, because everybody, whether they're transitioning generationally or to another group that purchases the company or get swallowed up into a large roll up or PE firm or whatever. There has to be that revenue event. So the line items are where all the beautiful profit lay after you get sales.
Yeah, you and I have an alignment, man, because listen, I'm a sales professional at heart, and I say sales professional. I'm not a salesman. I'm a sales professional at heart. But I've been lucky enough to have been mentored and really learn the education of running a business, getting under the hood, identifying efficiencies where you're making. And believe me, I've done them too, where you've had certain parts of your business that's not making as much money as you want. I say put pressure all the time, put pressure in areas that are going really well, put pressure in areas that are not going really well because you want to fail fast. But for you, in looking at businesses today, or even as a whole, what are some of the most common challenges you see in working with businesses, and what's the first step to solving that?
Well, I think it's just a personal issue. I think people don't live in the moment. So
Okay.
I think they are constantly either looking in the past or looking in the future. When you look in the past, you're depressed. And when you look in the future, you're anxious. And so it's hard to make good decisions when you're not present. And when you're not present, like I'm really paying attention to you right now, David. I'm paying attention to to your physicality, to what you're saying, to what's coming out of not only your mouth, but also your heart, and I'm really engaged in that. And so when you don't do that, you miss all of the good talent, technique, and outcomes that occur because you're constantly thinking, oh, let me answer that question. Let me answer that question. Let me think about, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen? What happened yesterday? And so you need all that. Sure, you need your history, you need your projections and all that.
Yes.
If you live too much in that, you miss everything that matters.
Yeah, great point. It's so profound, man. It's so profound, and it's such a great point.
Yeah.
Listen, you obviously still you work with CEOs, CFOs across all industries.
Yeah.
What separates, in light of that, right? Because you already talked about one strategy that's important, and live in the present. Obviously, you got to have projections. You got to look what you've done in history to measure that stuff. But what separates great leaders from the average ones that you've worked with?
I think it's self-awareness.
Great.
And also, by being self-aware, there is a joy, happiness, for lack of a better term, in everything you do. And there's a lot of guys that, are pressed and obviously you look at the richest men in the world, right? But I think ultimately it's in the putter, the puttering around. It just sort of just feeling good about who you are and how you are and what you are that engenders the great thought process, the great solutions, the great innovations. Maybe sometimes it's frenetic. I think a lot of younger people, are that. But, I was listening to this brilliant song, and people may think it's a little corny, but this brilliant song last night, it was "Let It Be" by McCartney.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, this motherfucker, at 28 years old, 29 years old, I don't know if this is, just hit it.
Go, brother.
You know what I'm saying? He hit it, right? And he was in the moment, and he said, just roll with it. But I got chills. What an amazing inspirational song that came to him out of just being present, being just and rolling with life. And he innovated. He came out with the greatest songs ever.
It's so interesting, man, right? Like, do you think, you talk about self-awareness? I say this, you can listen to some of my past podcasts. Self-awareness is truly one of the biggest differentiators for me and people who are good or great. And it's amazing to me how many people that I meet that, and no disrespect, I shouldn't say how many, but there's just some people who are just so successful and they just don't have any self-awareness. It's really odd to me, to a certain point. But to go back to what you were talking about, like when they're making this song, and I know we're kind of going off a track here, but
right.
do you think they know how great this is going to be? Like, you've worked with some businesses, right? They don't give a shit, right? They don't give a shit.
It just flows out of them, man. Yeah. Sure, there are guys, like this is gonna be a hit.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they miss, but you knew that when they're singing this, they're like, they don't give a shit. They don't give two fucks, man. I mean, Beatles didn't give two. Lennon didn't give two fucks. If he got there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was early for him. You know what I mean? Then he had 20 cups of coffee and stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning and all over again. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love it, man. I love it.
You know, when you think about it, you know, and you drill down to all these things like "Gimme Shelter" by the Stones. When that chick comes in, there's a African American singer that
Yeah.
she sings "Rape Murder." You know, she was pregnant. And Nick called her up at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning to come in and do that. She belts this thing out, and then like 2 weeks later has a miscarriage. So
Wow,
I mean,
I didn't know that part of it. See, I saw the interview on that. I love that interview because she was sleeping, and what I love is when she said, yeah, they called me up and I went down there. I mean, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I think it was cold in the middle of winter too. And she went down there, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm going to blow the roof off this motherfucker. I am going to blow these guys away. Like she knew what she was going to do next. Unbelievable. It's such a cool deal.
Yeah. And that's the greatest rock and roll song of all time.
Yeah. It's such a cool tune, man. It's such a cool tune.
It really is a cool tune. So anyhow, you know, when you think about how this, you know, because it's chaos, right? Life is chaos.
Right.
It's a cacophony of events, but it comes out of this peace, this calmness that, I mean, these, whether they do it naturally or whether they do it intentionally, they don't even think. They get, you know, my father used to say, calm your mind. And what he was saying to me is, don't think. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do. But I intentionally spend at least a few minutes a day seriously not thinking.
Wow. That's tough to do.
It is.
I mean, that's essentially meditation is what you're doing is you're meditating. I haven't been able to master that. And I'll say with all honesty, I haven't worked as hard at it as I should have, but it's a tough thing for me to break through on the meditation side and just kind of take it all in. So when you're focused on, you obviously you've worked with a ton of organizations, a lot of organizations, and there are companies that are trying to scale up, right? They're trying to grow strategically. I want to know your perspective on some of the biggest mistakes or the biggest accomplishments companies can make when they're really trying to scale up.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the mistake that companies make is not seeing the humanity that makes up the company. So whether you have, you know, exponential lightning bolt success, hockey stick success, and you mistreat your people, you lost. And it always comes back to bite you. Okay. Whether it gets exposed or not, the ones that did the dirty, no.
Yeah.
Okay. And look, at the end of the day, there's plenty of nefarious people that make a ton of money, and you know, a lot of times just go through life unscathed. But you know, even the sociopath knows.
There's a book, The Sociopath Next Door.
Yeah,
that's a crazy one.
Yeah. Even the sociopath knows. And so while that may be an esoteric to the audience, it really is the root and the core. The only thing that matters is how you treat your people. And why is that important? Because everything, you know, when the message meets the experience, magic happens. So when people are told that this place treats me great, and they come in and it does, what do? They gravitate and attract more great people. You know, so let's do a Beatle analogy again.
Yeah.
How did Eric Clapton and Billy Preston and Mick Jagger sing on all their songs or play on all their songs and get, you know, what's his name? shoot, I can't remember the guy who was their producer. But anyhow, he was amazing producer. I can't believe I can't remember his name. But anyhow, so the better you treat each other, and then of course it imploded. But then they
Right.
figured that out. But then they figured that out, and then they made more great music, and they got attracted by more people. I mean, Paul McCartney was on a goddamn that fiasco, that 50th anniversary of SNL, right? And he sang the Golden Slumbers, medley. It was phenomenal. I mean, he's 82 years old, so his voice is 82. But, at the end of the day, wow. So where are we going? Like, I was just my nephew is a defensive backs coach for Ohio State.
Okay.
The people they attract there, oh my,
All the time, right?
I mean, oh my God, So, and at the end of the day, there's a selflessness to that, David. When you have a Travion Henderson, who was the leader as a freshman in running, and then he shares the running backs with whatever that cat's name.
Yeah, they brought him in out of was it Ole Miss? They got him from, I
Yeah,
think
Ole
it was, or something like that. Yeah, I can't remember his name either, but yeah, he's a great player.
Or Emeka Abuka, taking the third position almost, or second position for sure, to that amazing human
Smith.
being. Where's number 4?
Smith.
Right? Yeah, Smith. So, wow, right? There's some humility there. There's some understanding of greater good. And so I think that all these companies, and then they're open. They have an open mind and an open heart, so they're able to see the best practices that need to come in and leave their ego at the door. Because ego is a form of insanity, if you think about
it. Yes.
Because what does ego do? If you let it run wild, it controls horrible outcomes. I mean, it brings, as a in your relationships, in your business, just when you put your head on the pillow. So you gotta have some gratefulness, humility, and again, just mindfulness. I hate to use it.
I call it organizational alignment, man. And it starts from the top. And I don't care how big your organization is. You can it might be a little bit more complex, but with technology today, you can definitely make sure that message resonates. Yeah. But yeah, you've really, and it's more than just talk too. I mean, there's a lot of other things and factors that play into that on how you take care of your employees I think recognition is probably the believe it or not, is one of the things that's over missed, if that's the right word we want to use here. But recognition, whether it's a small win or a big win. I mean, I say all the time, especially when I'm speaking, is go get a win. I don't care how small it is or how big it is, but more importantly, if you're running an organization, find ways to recognize that. Find ways to recognize the small ones, because sometimes those small ones add up to the big ones, as you know.
Yeah, and so there's so many ways to do that, and get people to have ownership, of situations. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many. COVID had to change the way I coach. I coached high school and college wrestling since the late 70s. Well, COVID, you had to change, right? So what I did was, and I was a head coach at a local high school. I said, well, we don't even know if we're going to have practice tomorrow. And for how long? We don't know. I mean, we had 3 9-day quarantines in that 1 year, right? So when I got the kids back, I said, you know what? Just wrestle your match. Take one or two takedowns, one escape, 1 or 2 pins, and just that's it. We're not going to teach you anything. Just get great at those and have fun, have a blast. And we started giving them nicknames. And then they would start showing that move. So like if a guy was great at a cradle, I called him Captain Cradle. And then he would say, okay, here's how I want to show it. Then he would show the moves. So he was become the expert of it, So he owned that, right? So all of a sudden,
so
right?
Took ownership in it, yeah.
Yeah,
Give it a name. Give it a name, man.
Give it a name. And then also too, you elevate that kid for that position for that time being, but then he gives it away too. It's so beautiful what I showed. He would say, hey, this guy's got this, and so he was a senior, but the junior had the double arm bars, as we called him Sammy Surfboard, because it was a surfboard. So I mean, right? I mean, it's silly, but that's what you could do in business too.
Yeah. So where did you coach in college? Was it JC? Was
Yeah, JCU.
JCU?
Yeah,
Yeah, JCU.
yeah,
John Carroll
yeah,
University.
yeah.
Played them every year. Uh, who was the best you ever coached?
So in high school, there's a guy by the name of David Sternberg,
Okay.
and David was a two-time state champ, and he was undefeated. He was undefeated those 2 years, but he never made a mistake. And he wasn't. I mean, he was wiry, and he was tough, and he was smart, and he had great position, but he never made a mistake. And he was extremely. He was in the moment.
Yes.
You know. So, but then in college, the best I ever coached was a kid by the name of Nick D'Angelo, who was first, second at John Carroll at 190. And he was an academic All-American in two sports. He was an academic All-American linebacker and then national champ. And I had the honor as a 23 or 24-year-old GA to sit in the chair next to Tony DiCarlo, the legend and the Hall of Famer, who we lost too soon. But when he won the national title. And so I was able to coach a national champion in my early
That's great.
Yeah, it was cool. But Nicky was also very bright, deep. He was a deep guy. We lost him. He just died at 60 years old a couple of years ago. It's so sad.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he's actually the first national champ John Carroll ever lost in wrestling. So, but that said, he was smart, and he only had 3 moves. He had a spear double. He could not be held. He had the fastest stand-up on the team at 190. And he had a deep waist ride to a half. And that was it.
That's it.
That was it. I mean, really didn't have anything else, you know. So a lot of times simplicity is the best, best medicine, right?
Well, that carries over to business too, because you don't have to be everything to everyone. I was coaching a company recently, and they did these packages for national parks where they're going on guided trips and all this kind of stuff. And a year ago, they were like doing every package that anybody wanted. And then once they started really bringing things down to just be a little more selective on the things that also was more profitable for them, because you're going to put the time in for it, they really started changing their trajectory versus trying to be everything to everybody. And I think that's a good lesson in business world.
Yeah, and then solution-wise, Occam's razor, right?
Right.
I mean, and it's right in front of your face. Don't ignore it.
So true, man. All right, so let's talk about today's economy, all right?
Sure.
Because you obviously have seen shifts through your career. What do you see as, and I'm going to flip this too, because I'm going to start with what do you see as the biggest challenges right now in 25? And then I'm going to come back on the other side of this as well.
So it's 2 things. It's human barriers we put up, regulations, layers of basically waste costs that are just fat, that have no meaning just because they're there. I mean, you look at your hotel bill, your phone bill, and then the burgeoning technology, AI, and how's that incorporated, So technology is really neutral, but this may be the first one that's not necessarily that neutral. It's usually the user and how it's interfaced, and how it's incorporated. So, but it's I think it's going to devastate a lot of businesses. I mean, look at what it's doing for,
Give me an example.
Legal. I mean, medicine. I'm telling you right now, you're going to have, and it's not far off, there's going to be an operation. You're going to be laying on the table, knocked out, and the doctor will not be in the room. You'll be in Cleveland and the doctor may be in San Francisco because he's a specialist on that.
On a
And
machine.
yeah, I'll be using a robot arm. Yeah, that's coming.
You think, wow.
That's coming. And then what else is coming is nanite injections.
Okay.
So these little tiny robots, whether they're biologically engineered or synthetic. And you got a tumor, inject it into you. They're going to go to that tumor and they're going to eat it, and then it's just going to come out in your urine or your feces.
Wow.
So, so, but also too the application, the practical applications of writing a contract and doing your taxes and prescriptions and why do you have to go to a doctor for a headache? You don't anymore. You used to, right? Not anymore. Poison ivy, you don't have to go to a doctor anymore. You do it via this. Oh, okay. Let me show you the rash there. Go get a prescription down at the PDF. So there's a lot of applications that are going to be occurring, and a lot of industries that are going to be just wiped out. And it's going to also open up other industries, but
do you think that's going to take some time? That I don't think it's going to happen quickly because there's got to be a trust factor. But I mean, what's your time frame on something like that? Do you think it's going to happen more quickly?
Ask the travel agent.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty quickly.
I still see a few travel agents around every now and again.
Well, they've carved. Again, everybody wants. Look, it's high tech, but it's also high touch.
Right.
If high tech was the panacea to everything, there would be no bank teller.
Yeah.
Why do you really need a bank teller? You don't really need one. Why do you need the post office? I mean, when you go in those places, right? I'm 67 years old. Most of those people aren't young people in those places. I mean, they're all 50 and over, guaranteed. I mean, I've been in bank branches because I like my banker because I have a credit line and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I talk to her once in a while and whatever. I never see a young person in there, never. And I can't tell you the last time I was at the post office, but the last time I was there, I was definitely one of the younger persons in line.
Yeah, honestly, do you say I can't remember the last time I really was in a bank. Realistically, just that's really interesting.
Yep,
that you say that.
It's still new. So getting back to the travel agents, there's still a room for the concierge travel agent.
Yeah.
Or the concierge. Look, there's always going to be that need for that high touch. I mean, you have concierge medicine. You have so they'll pay for it. But overall, I mean, the experience, because I'm old enough to remember the family doctor. I mean, I went to Dr. York.
Yeah, well, me too.
Doctor until until he died, basically. And you never went to a specialist. What? I mean, really, our world is immensely changed just in the last, 40 years, 50 years. So you're going to see the same thing, this devaluing of the human contact.
Yeah.
But there's still going to be that, again, because people want it. So
they want that. Yeah, they want that personal touch. Like these cars, right, that drive by themselves with no.
Yep.
I mean, they're out there, and we were doing a big. Because I was in Phoenix for 25 years. We moved out to Park City a couple of years ago, a little over 2 years ago. But I remember when we moved away, my son, who was still there, was sending me videos of those cars, and there's just this uncertainty, right? Of like for them, it's okay. I mean, he's 21, he's 20 years old. It was okay with him. He was like, "Oh, this is cool," right? But I'm like,
yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I mean, I was in Phoenix for Thanksgiving, and I was, we went to Kierland. We're walking around Kierland.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then we went. Then I said, "Come on!" And this car is following us everywhere. With the thing on the top. And then I said, come on, you got to go see. My wife had never seen. She'd never been to Phoenix. So I go, you got to go see the Biltmore. So we went to the Biltmore.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
classic.
yeah, that damn thing's following us. Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but yeah, so that and that's not gonna that genie's out of the bottle. So
Yeah. What about opportunities? Let's flip it. What are some of the biggest opportunities that business is going to be able to capitalize over the next year or so?
so I think that great CPG products are going to always win. I think great food products are going to win, but the retail industry is brutal.
Mhm.
So it's going to have to be online. It's going to have to be, and Amazon's tough too. But you can carve out your niche, and if you do, you're going to make a lot of money. And if you disrupt the industry and you have great product and pay attention to that, I think there's going to be industry. I think there's going to be opportunity there. I definitely think there's going to be opportunity in information transfer, blockchain, whatever you want to talk about, crypto. It's all information, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, what is the need for a patent? And maybe there's patent attorneys out there that will eviscerate me, and I'm game for that. I've been eviscerated before, but with the blockchain, I don't know if you're really going to need a patent in the future. So there's a lot. I mean, medical records. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in that space. I've got a buddy of mine who just actually became our new junior senator, Bernie Moreno, who actually has a company called Champ Titles, and they're putting car titles now, digitizing car titles. Imagine that. Yeah.
Wow.
There's opportunity in digitizing old technology. Mortgages, right, should be digitized, right? So
It was funny. We just had a guest on who has a software called FinTech, which essentially is a grading system on where you can improve to get a mortgage, and it'll break everything down that you have from an asset to a debt. And then it's like, all right, if you pay off your credit card, it will increase your credit score by Y. So you should do this or shouldn't do it. It breaks out a whole scenario, but I'm sure it's all AI based and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, that's the kind of stuff you're talking about. Yeah.
And then once you buy the house, it should be digitized. It should.
Yeah, of course.
Anyhow, so there's going to be a lot of, I think, opportunity there. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in, crazily enough, in the political spectrum.
Mm.
There's a lot there's a lot that was just learned in 2024, in November of 2024.
Yeah.
There was a big spanking, a big lesson that was learned. And there was a party that won, there was a party that didn't. And also too, there was a message that won, and now it's being run around the world right now,
Yep.
So, that's not a political position. That's just fact.
It's the reality.
So at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of money being made in that. And then there's going to be a lot of money in efficiencies. I mean, you've got, whether the thing works or not, this Doge, there's going to be a lot of industry that's going to be created from that, saying efficiencies. Well, my company, best practices, right? So I can show you how to monetize a traditional cost center, your accounts payable. I can show you how to monetize paying your bills. Well, there's also going to be a lot of lessons learned if they're successful, and I think they probably will to some degree, on how to cut, fraud, abuse, waste, whatever. And then all of that, you're going to have all this excess capital. How are you going to redeploy that? So there's big opportunity in the redeploying of capital through the capital markets. So
yeah, I want to talk on this because you brought it up, but you talked about efficiencies, right? If a company is looking to be more operationally efficient, or bring up or improve their EBITDA, which you mentioned earlier, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, what are some of the quickest ways that a business can create more profitability that you see these days?
Well, again, that one line item. Imagine taking your accounts payable, which costs you money because you have people paying your bills for you, right?
Yeah.
So you have to hire Susie secretary and Johnny, Junior, whatever. And so people still were writing checks, yikes, right? Or doing ACHs, whereas there's a whole platform that you can do it through a virtual MasterCard, Visa, or American Express and get rebates back. And cut your AP department in half or a third. So you're going to save up. Yeah, and it's all drops to the bottom line. All drops to EBITDA. So let's say, like I have a company here. It's a big software company. You'll know the name, but I'm not going to bring it up.
Okay.
And they're out in Westlake. And they've incorporated our AP solution. They're getting on average $190,000 in cash rebates monthly. So that's $2.4 million almost, right? To their bottom line.
Wow.
Now, let's say let's say they want to sell and their valuation, is whatever, and they get an 8 multiple. That's now $16 million.
Big number.
That's just one of these best practices that are out there right now. And cost savings on your medical insurance. I mean, that is a big ripoff. That's a huge, And there's companies out there that are showing how to do that, and they're innovative, and they're not corrupt. Because there's so much corruption.
Yeah.
Because the money, when the money is easy, it attracts nefarious characters.
Play that back.
It attracts various characters doing scallywaggy deeds. The scallywag various deeds. Anyhow, so that's where you're looking at that opportunity. And then when a company looks to purchase it and they see that, they say, oh my gosh, now there's not only the hard factor, the actual practicality of, dropping money at the bottom line, but there's also a respect factor that those leaderships have, that foresight. And so there's a cachet to that. And you could also sell that cachet because there's a gravity to it.
Yeah. And obviously this is a big preparation device too. I mean, I was going to ask you a question about raising capital and getting acquired. I mean, I think it's the same answer. I think you've got to identify efficiencies for your organization. If you're thinking about raising capital, or if you're thinking about getting acquired, you've got to identify. The first thing you should do is identify efficiencies for your organization to add to the bottom line. Obviously, you want to keep pushing up sales and being more profitable and taking care of your people, Peter, right?
100%. Look, at the end of the day, there's going to be companies that are going to have very little people. Like, people are projecting that in the Amazon distribution centers, the only human beings in 5 years that are going to be there are the engineers running the robots. And as you see, I mean, you see an Amazon truck, right? That's a weird looking truck, dude. But that a lot of engineering went into that.
Yep.
Right? And you're starting to see more and more intelligent packaging, more efficient packaging, right? So, but you got to treat those engineers good too, right? They're not robots. Yeah. So whether there's going to be less humans doing less work, particularly the unskilled labor. There'll always be work for unskilled labor, but it's going to be a lot. It's going to be reduced. So at the end of the day, what are we going to do with this humanity? You better really be soulful. You better really open your heart. And I mean, I talk to guys all the time that are not young guys, that are not, that have been successful, that are right now freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen it this bad in regards to new business.
Right. Because you either have to learn a new trade or learn how to, like you said, be the engineer and learn how to work on the software or the bot that's taking the place of the humans, right? And there's only so
Yeah.
many seats for that as well.
Yeah. And if you're
Just like the AI world, you got to know AI. You're going to get bumped out if you don't know AI.
And if you're selling that, right? And if you're selling that, and then there's a younger crew coming in, and that's all they were raised on, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look at Mr. Beast. I don't know if you know this guy, but Mr. Beast, look him up. You know, I think he made 600 million last year. He's 26 years old. Well, this guy was raised on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, I did hear this guy. Oh, yeah. I know this guy. Yep.
Yeah, he was raised on YouTube, and he's been making millions since I think he was 15 years old.
Yeah, my 13-year-old was watching this guy like 5 years ago. Him and his buddies run these pranks and do all this stuff.
He's not now. He's not doing pranks now. He is an industry. I mean, the guy's an industry. So the point I'm making is that's
wow. I didn't realize that was him. Yeah,
that's what's happening. So David, I mean, there's all that whole crew coming in that know this in their sleep, and just eating older people's lunches, and so there's a dynamic there that is very let's just put eye-opening.
Yeah.
Eye-opening.
Really interesting, man. You know, I got this question because with all this stuff on this technology side, right? You've got this cybersecurity thing. Like, I think that's an industry that's going to grow,
No doubt.
just because everything's going so digitally. But in companies you've worked with or even experience in cybersecurity, if you have any, you know, what should companies be doing to protect themselves right now? Because there's a lot out there that people can just grab.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen it in some companies where they get hacked or whatever it might be. But that's an industry I think that's going to keep skyrocketing. But more importantly, on the flip side, as companies that you've worked with or seen, you've got to be buttoned up, right? And I want your perspective on that.
Yeah, you got to be buttoned up, but you also have to, make sure that your humans aren't doing dumb things. A lot of these things are people clicking on, emails and links and, just doing it mindlessly. And so that's, so it's a combination of having a great system, a great provider that has the cybersecurity infrastructure and platform, but it's also the training of the human beings that are using that information system. So it's a duality of purpose here.
Yeah.
And there's got to be consequences that are swift, just, and consistent. So, and ransomware is a real thing, man. I have a buddy of mine whose company had to pay $15 million and was down for 2 years. It's real. So
yeah, it's real. No, it is real. I was involved in a company at a time that was getting hacked a short while back, and they're like, listen, if you don't send X amount of dollars, we're just going to shut you down. I mean, we have these worms that can just go in there and shut this thing down, or we'll release it. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. But there's plenty of great companies out there that can help you.
Yeah.
But again, it's not very cheap. And also too, have great insurance too. Have great cybersecurity insurance.
Yeah.
So, and redundancy, right? That's the old school mentality of redundancy. So there's a lot of common sense stuff to do, but there's also a lot of technology to do. But again, I think it's a duality of purpose.
So let's talk practices and tactical advice for a business, right? You've shared 4 tips to make businesses stronger. What are those? You mind sharing those tips? Because I went to your website and I was looking at some of the things regarding financial score and things like that. But
well, there's a lot of tips on my website, so I'm not quite sure.
But give me some of your tips to running a stronger business. If I'm looking at running a business right now, what are 4 or 3 things that I would need to clip off the list right now in order to find my company to improve it?
Well, first and foremost, I'd find the best of the best practices that I can. So anything that's out there that can improve my company technologically, I want to do.
Okay, great.
And then attracting the best talent that I can, 100%. And then in that talent, building the best ecosystem I can. Fuck culture. It's an ecosystem. It's just not just this. It's all over. It's how do we,
Everything.
how do we treat ourselves? How do we treat our people? How do we treat our clients? How do we treat our vendors? How do we treat the world? Okay. And then lastly, have to be a dog with a bone, baby. Once you got that in place, once you have that culture way, or whatever philosophy way, and that mission, just don't stop.
Go,
baby, go. Dog with a bone. And the only superpower I have is tenacity. The only thing I got on this planet. So
isn't it interesting? I just, because of like the social media today and all this shit that's out there, these and more so the younger culture, they get enamored with this idea that you got to have these multiple revenue streams, right? You got to have this coming in and that coming in, and like Elon Musk has this, he has Tesla, he has this. But I want to back up here on this shit, okay? Because here's the deal. Elon Musk made his bones with PayPal, okay? When you make it and when you're out, when you actually make it and you have the money coming in, or you sold your company, whatever it might be, and you've got now you can do multiple, revenue streams. But in order to be successful, you have got to be laser focused on what you want to accomplish versus doing 4 things, because you're going to have 25% here, 25% here, 25% here, and 25% here. And it really bugs the shit out of me when I see this multiple revenue stream thing, and you should have this and you should have that. You should be bringing this in. It really, it's a cultural thing that I think is very misleading these days, because you can never really, and the only reason and sorry to cut you off, but the only reason that sparked that for me is because you're like, just go, baby, like be focused, give the dog a bone, to just go and be focused on executing and strategy. And I think right now, I was just having this conversation last week with somebody, and he's like, yeah, my one employee does this, this, and this, and this. And it's just, you can never really maximize your success when you're doing a bunch of different things.
Well, what I will tell you is that Elon, interesting that you brought him up. He's probably one of 12 that's ever walked the planet.
He's an alien, man.
He's an alien. The guy,
he says it too.
Well, I mean, think about it, right? So, but Tesla was in the shitter back in what?
Yeah, that was. No. Yeah.
So he took a flyer. I mean, he lost. He was down to nothing, I think, for a little bit. But the point I'm making is that he's never. Look, you could literally put him on a desert island right now, and he'd be worth $1 billion in 6 months. You know what I mean? He's just knows what he's doing. The point I'm making is that your point is well taken, but also too, sometimes you got to do certain different things to get your nose bloodied to then be able to be laser beam focused. So I did a lot of different things. I've owned 11 businesses, but I failed at 3 of them. So I learned more in the failures than I did truly in the successes of what not to do, right? So why is this business successful, and what brought me there, and the ability to focus on what our mission is that I had failure in the CPG industry, and I had failure, in a service business, and I had failure because of a bad partner in another business, right? Yeah. That stole, my IP and all that shit. Well, unless something really, really, really weird happens to me, that shit's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't begrudge any youngster of going out and trying different things and getting their nose bloody.
I agree.
Skin knees, but man, once you're that dog with a bone, man, you chew it down to the marrow.
Yeah. Then that's the point. I'm saying, once you identify what you think is going to be the deal, like go after it. Don't just be relentless. Just be
You know,
relentless.
like Secretariat, balls out, baby.
It's also out, man, for sure.
Just
Um,
run.
Couple more questions for you. This has been great, by the way, Peter. Thank you for being on the show. It's been such a great conversation. But I want to go back to your coaching, right? You've coached a lot of people athletically. You've coached a lot of people in the business life. What are some of the biggest parallels between, coaching those athletes and CEOs that are successful?
It's a humility. It's a ability to understand that they have to open up and truly be self-critical, I guess, for lack of a better term, or self-reflective.
Yeah.
They really have the ability to say, I am not good at this yet, and I need to get better. And here's the plan. Here's the plan and the path, and the work I got to do to get there, without any ego, without any. I'm not saying not confidence. I'm talking about arrogance. There's so much. You watch it on TV. It's like these people are not only dumb, they're arrogant too. Like, what a horrible. I feel like they're otter. Fat, dumb, stupid, or whatever. From man, 0.0.
From Animal House.
Animal House, right? And these people are like have a microphone. You're like, what the hell? How did this happen? We went from William F. Buckley, debating Phil Donahue to idiot versus idiot. Anyhow. So, but no, all these guys, and I just think about the last guy coach that made the state final or state tournament and placed at the state tournament. This kid comes from a great family. He's just a great young man, and he's just thankful. And I remember when he went out to wrestle his last match, he didn't win the state title, but he placed pretty high in the state. And I just say, I love you, bro. He goes, I love you, coach. So I slapped him on the butt, and he went out and won the match, and gave his all.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, and the CEOs or the leaders that I've had the honor of coaching and be in my life, all these years, is that there's a true gratefulness to them for who got them there.
Yeah, thankful. Self-awareness, and you said it earlier, self-awareness, right?
Yeah,
like that the ability to recognize. And I tell this to people who I coach. I get in front of groups and coach. I say, listen, I've been mentored by some of the great ones. And what I'm going to teach you today is being mentored by people. Either I made the mistake myself. There you go.
That's my dad.
There you go.
There's my dad.
Awesome.
Okay, my son drew this, and this looks at me every day. And we lost it in December of 23. But, you just.
That's where it starts.
Love you, Carmine, my baby. So, So you're right. You're right, dude. It's just, it's who got you there, but man, hit your knees, baby. Hit your knees,
Yeah, and you got to be open to receive it too, because that's probably the even the bigger piece of this whole thing is you can get great advice, but if you're not ready to receive or be coachable, especially being athletes ourselves, I think that was one of the biggest things for me that athletics taught me. Not just, again, I was lucky enough to be a leader within that, but I knew I didn't know it all. I always wanted to learn more. There was always a perspective for me to try to get better through my coaches, because they were looking outside in. And sometimes when you're looking inside out, you can't see it.
Right.
And that's like running a business too. When you're in the weeds every day, you can't see it. I always thrived the best when I had a consultant come in and look outside in and work with me, because it was foreign and they saw things that I couldn't see. And I think it's an important perspective.
And ask your people, what am I missing?
Your people. Yes, your people.
What am I missing? What am I missing? I ask them every day. I'm like, did I miss anything?
Yeah, that's so great, man. So great. Listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. You host a podcast too, right?
I do. It's actually it's a dual podcast within the same platform, Blood Time and Undeniable. So
yeah, what's the premise? So
Blood Time is that moment when the athlete and the coach connect and are both transformed to become family. And then what does that athlete do with that blood time moment the rest of their lives.
Oh man, I've lived that story a few times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And undeniable is the same thing in business. Like, who was your business mentor? How did you connect? And what did you do with that transformation?
What a great show. Great show.
It's cool.
Excellent, man. Cool. Well, listen, I want to thank you for being here on the show today. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this episode. And where can people find you? I always like to ask at the end, but where can people connect with you?
Yeah, we're at palladiumedge.com, palladiumedge.com, Peter at palladiumedge.com. And I'm all over social media. I'm on LinkedIn like big time. So
excellent, man. Excellent.
Thank you, David. You're the best. Bro.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you're the best, man. This has been a lot of fun. Listen, everybody, wealth, health, success to all of you out there. As I always say, go get a win today. I don't care how big, how small it is. Go get a win and then stack that SOB. But more importantly, thanks again, Peter, for being here. Really appreciate you being on the show. And everybody, like this show, share it. Just share it with one person. I always say that as well, because it will keep growing. We've got some really good momentum, and it's because of guests like you. So thanks again, Peter. Appreciate you being here.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.